Welcome to this deep dive. Today, our mission is to explore a really fascinating 2023 essay. It's by Feng, edited by Kinyu, and it's titled How to Live Out Your Nature.
Right, and it's quite a read.
Oh, it really is. And the core premise here is just a massive paradigm shift for you, the listener. It basically proposes that, well, the very tools we use to navigate the world, our thoughts, our intellect, our feelings,
Yeah,
it proposes that those are actually the exact obstacles blocking us from our true potential.
it fundamentally challenges the modern toolkit, for personal growth, because we usually think the path forward involves, like, reading more or analyzing our emotions.
Right, thinking critically about everything.
Exactly. But this essay suggests that our relentless drive to intellectualize, to process every little thing, is precisely what keeps us disconnected from our genuine selves.
Which presents this hilarious irony right out of the gate for you, the listener. Because if you're tuning into this, you're probably someone who loves to learn.
Oh, absolutely.
You're using your brain right now to consume this information, right? Hoping to gain some insight. And yet, the text we're diving into essentially tells us that to reach true self-actualization, we need to stop trying so hard.
Yeah, we treat our intellect like a compass to navigate out of the woods, but this essay argues that, well, the compass is entirely broken.
And using it is what's keeping us walking in circles.
That irony is actually the perfect entry point. The text maps out this really complex relationship between our heart, our brain, and our innate nature.
Okay, let's unpack this. We should probably start by defining some terms, especially nature, because I want to be clear for the listener, we aren't talking about trees and rivers here.
No, far from it. In the context of this essay, nature is defined as the manifestation of heavenly principles in human beings.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's your inherent essence. The text asserts that living in accordance with this nature means basically living in harmony with the fundamental laws of the universe, or the Tao.
Wait, the Tao.
And when a person completely lives out their inherent nature, they don't just connect with the Tao, they literally unite with it. The text puts it beautifully, actually. It says, to perceive it is to understand your nature, to seek it is to bloom it, and to attain the Tao is to live it out completely.
But here's where the source material takes a wildly unexpected turn. Because when the author poses the big question, what actually is human nature, they don't defer to an ancient Taoist master
Right.
or even a modern philosopher. The author claims that the most authoritative revelation of this sacred spiritual concept actually comes from artificial intelligence.
I know, it's quite the pivot. But the author provides a quote generated by AI, and it's strikingly poetic.
What does it say?
The AI defines nature as humanity's innate essence. It calls it genuine, pure, beautiful, perfect, and eternal. But the most revealing part of the AI's answer is what nature resists.
Okay.
The AI points out that human nature is the most difficult thing to control, abandon, sever, destroy, forge, or forget. Yeah. And living it out, the AI concludes, means living out one's life. And that's life in capital letters, one's true self, happiness, and meaning.
I mean, I have to push back on this a little bit because it feels incredibly paradoxical. Wait, isn't it incredibly ironic that we are using a machine and AI to perfectly articulate the most sacred, unforgeable essence of humanity?
It is ironic, yeah.
Like, what does that say about us? We built these cold, calculating digital brains, and they spit out this uncontainable romantic poetry about our souls.
Well, think about what a large language model actually is, right?
Mhm.
It's the aggregate of all human output. It basically scrapes our history, our literature, our religions.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Yeah, by stripping away individual human ego and just looking at the mathematical consensus of our entire species, the AI perhaps distills a purer definition of our essence than any single human could.
That is fascinating.
And the author seems to use this AI definition as an objective baseline, which leads directly into what the text calls its reference frame.
Right, the reference frame. Let's get into that, because it highlights how uniquely terrible humans are at just existing.
Exactly. Look at the rest of the natural world. Plants, animals, insects, microorganisms, they all live out their nature effortlessly.
Right, a redwood tree doesn't have an existential crisis about being a tree.
No, and a bee doesn't have to meditate to figure out its purpose in the hive. They just exist in perfect alignment with their programming. Humans are the outliers here.
Why are we the odd ones out?
Well, we're the only part of nature that seems to have to actively force ourselves to align with our own nature.
Which naturally leads to the biggest question, why? Why do we struggle so much with something that, like, a blade of grass manages to do perfectly every single day?
To answer that, the essay maps out human consciousness into a specific triad.
The heart, the brain in nature.
Exactly. And we need to spend some time on how this text defines the heart, because it completely upends our standard romanticized idea of it.
Yeah, if you're listening, you need to momentarily forget literally everything poetry and pop music have taught you about the heart.
Totally. In this essay, the heart is not the seat of your soul. It's not the source of deep internal emotional truth.
So what is it?
The text defines the heart purely as a reflection of the objective material world. It is entirely reactive. The essay actually states that all things are generated by the heart, and the heart is generated by all things.
So it operates more like a mirror. If there's nothing standing in front of the mirror, there's no reflection.
That is a great way to visualize it. Without the objective external world, the text argues, the heart just wouldn't exist. It changes constantly based on the environment.
Like, if you place a person in a chaotic, stressful city, their heart reflects chaos.
Right. And if you place them in a quiet forest, their heart reflects quiet. It is inextricably tied to material reality, which means it's inherently unstable and entirely dependent on what's happening outside of you.
Okay, so if the heart is just a mirror reflecting the outside world, who or what is actually making the decisions? Because I know I don't just passively reflect my environment, I act on it.
That brings us to the second part of the triad, the brain. The essay describes the brain merely as a bridge, like an information processing center.
Okay.
Its job is to take whatever the heart is currently reflecting from the material world and combine it with this massive internal database. The text calls this database the information retention space.
The information retention space. That sounds like a really fancy term for memory.
It includes memory, sure, but it's much broader than that. It is the repository of every word you've heard, every action you've taken, every societal rule you've internalized.
Oh, wow. Everything.
Everything. Past trauma, learned behaviors. It is your entire conditioned database. So the brain uses thinking to cross-reference the current material input from the heart with all the past data in that information retention space.
Right. It crunches those two data sets to decide what you should say or how you should act. Let me try to ground this in a real-world scenario so we can see the mechanics in action.
Go for it.
Imagine you're driving, right, and someone suddenly cuts you off in traffic. The heart, based on this text definition, simply reacts to the material reality. The sudden proximity of metal, the visual of a car swerving.
Exactly. It just reflects the immediate danger.
But then the brain kicks in. It queries the information retention space. It pulls up societal rules that say, hey, cutting someone off is disrespectful.
Right. It pulls up your ego.
Yeah, it remembers that honking is how you show displeasure. So the brain processes all of that and outputs the action. You lay on the horn and get angry.
That is a perfect illustration of the mechanics. The heart provided the raw material data, and the brain processed it through your conditioned history.
Here's where it gets really interesting, especially if we push this tech analogy just a bit further. So if the heart is like a camera sensor purely reacting to the light of the outside world, and the brain is the computer's CPU and hard drive processing that footage based on old files,
Yeah.
where does our nature actually live? Because if I am not just the camera lens, and I'm not just the hard drive, where's the essential me?
You've just hit on the central conflict of the entire text. Nature doesn't live in either of those places.
Wait, really?
Really, the author defines nature as the characteristic of the life structure.
Wait, life structure? That's a pretty heavy piece of jargon. What does that actually mean?
Well, the text uses life in capital letters to differentiate it from just basic biological life. You can think of the life structure as the underlying invisible scaffolding of your existence. It is the non-material, energetic blueprint of who you are, completely separate from your physical body or your conditioned personality. And because it's non-material and invisible, it is completely beyond the grasp of the heart. The heart only deals with the tangible material world.
So, to borrow the analogy, the camera simply doesn't have the sensor required to photograph dark matter. It's physically incapable of capturing it.
Precisely. And it goes further. Nature is not part of the information retention space either.
Because you didn't learn it.
Right. You didn't learn your nature. Nobody taught it to you, so it isn't stored in your memory database.
Yeah.
Because it isn't in that database, the brain literally cannot access it.
The CPU cannot process a file that doesn't exist on the hard drive.
Exactly. So as your brain endlessly crunches data and forms thoughts, it completely overlooks the existence of your nature because it just lacks the hardware to see it.
This leads to the core principle of the essay, which is brilliantly simple, but also incredibly daunting. The text states, when the heart is active, the nature is concealed. When the heart is inactive, the nature is revealed. Furthermore, because the brain can't access nature, the more developed the brain is and the more active the thinking, the farther a person is from their nature.
The inescapable conclusion the author draws is that to live out your nature, you must live without using the heart and the brain. The constant noise of the camera and the CPU just drowns out the subtle frequency of the life structure.
I mean, I have to push back hard on behalf of the listener here, but hold on. We rely on our brains for literally everything.
We do, yeah.
If the text says the ultimate goal is to live without using the heart and brain, isn't it asking us to be zombies? How can anyone function in the world like that? If I turn off my material reactions and shut down my mental processing, I lose my job, I forget to feed my kids, I'm just a vegetable sitting on a couch.
This raises an important question, and it's the most natural objection to have. It's an assumption the author anticipates, actually.
Okay, so how do they address it?
The essay doesn't advocate for becoming a catatonic zombie. It is pointing toward a completely different elevated state of existence. To prove that this isn't about losing your function, the text brings in a roster of historical and religious icons.
Right. It synthesizes teachings from these incredibly dynamic figures who supposedly operated from this exact state of mindless living.
Exactly. Let's look at Bodhidharma first, the founder of Zen Buddhism. The text pulls from his bloodstream sermon, where he essentially states that Buddha is nature, and nature is Buddha.
So living without the heart and brain makes one a celestial being, or a Buddha.
Right. Bodhidharma taught direct experience. Bypassing the intellectual commentary of the brain, you're still acting in the world, but the origin of your action is entirely different.
Then the text pivots to Jesus Christ, quoting the Sermon on the Mount. Do not be anxious about tomorrow, what you will eat, drink, or wear.
Yeah.
And when I hear that through the lens of this essay, it isn't just a moral command to, chill out. It reads like a mechanical instruction.
That is exactly how the text frames it. Anxiety is literally the brain querying the information retention space, running predictive models on the material future, and stressing about the output.
Right.
Jesus is instructing people to shut down that specific background process. By stopping the CPU from endlessly calculating tomorrow's material needs, you create the silence necessary for your nature to actually reveal itself.
Oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense. The essay also brings in Buddha Shakyamuni, who said, do not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharma, but actually abide nowhere.
Which ties perfectly back to the concept of the heart.
Yeah, because form, sound, and smell are material inputs. If you abide in them, you are letting your heart get stuck reacting to the material world.
Exactly. To abide nowhere is to let the mind arise spontaneously from the life structure, rather than just reacting to the mirror.
And finally, the text points to Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher. He's famous for the concept of wu wei, or as the text quotes, manage affairs without doing anything.
Right, the masterclass of not doing.
But Lao Tzu says achieve without doing anything, and I just think about the listener's day. Think about your work day to day. Was it achieving without doing anything? Probably not.
Unlikely, yeah.
You probably had endless emails, tense meetings, and you were actively using your heart to react to stressful stimuli.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the text is harmonizing these figures. Wu Wei doesn't mean sitting still. It means acting without forced effort or ego-driven calculation.
Right.
Lao Tzu, Jesus, Buddha, they weren't zombies. They bypassed the anxious processing of the brain and the material reactions of the heart to exist purely in their nature. They responded to the world perfectly in a present moment.
Which is incredible in theory, but if these masters gave us the blueprint centuries ago, why is it so incredibly hard for the modern listener to pull this off?
Well, the essay delivers a very sobering reality check there. The author outlines the text's statistics and estimates that the probability of actually living this way is perhaps 1 in a million.
1 in a million. That is staggeringly low.
3 distinct obstacles. First, people simply don't comprehend it. It's deeply counterintuitive. Our survival instincts are entirely bound to the heart's material reactions and the brain's predictive models.
Right. If a tiger is chasing you, your heart's adrenaline and your brain's memory of danger are highly useful tools.
Exactly. The second obstacle, and this is where our reality comes in, is that traditional modes of production and life just do not permit this state of being.
So what does this all mean for us? I think about the knowledge worker listening to this, feeling that information overload.
Yeah.
We are trapped in our information retention space because our modern modes of production actually demand it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're incentivized to have an active heart that reacts constantly to stock prices, metrics, emails,
We're severed from our true nature because society penalizes anyone who unplugs.
which leads to the final obstacle. The text states that without highly skilled divine beings guiding the journey, the likelihood is extremely low. You need a master to guide you.
It's like trying to build a rocket to escape Earth's orbit, but you're only using parts you found in the woods, and you refuse to talk to an astrophysicist.
That's a perfect analogy. The gravity of our conditioned existence is just too strong.
So as we wrap this up, what is the ultimate takeaway? What does the ultimate goal actually look like?
True success isn't just about turning off the brain. It's about living without using the heart and brain while still living leisurely, carefree, and freely. That is what it means to truly live out your nature.
It's a beautiful paradox. You have to let go of the tools that you thought made you, well, you. But I want to leave you, the listener, with a final glaring thought.
Okay.
The text tells us that the brain uses memory and the heart uses material perception. If we successfully bypass both of those to live entirely in our invisible nature, what part of us is actually experiencing that carefree joy?
That is a wild thought.
Right. If the brain isn't recording it and the heart isn't feeling it, who is the you that remains? I want you to chew on that paradox the next time you catch yourself overthinking at work. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.